Well, good morning, everyone. I pray things are well with each of you as you rise into this new day, this beautiful day called today. I pray that as you rise today, that you are prepared for serendipitous moments to come your way. Well, I want to welcome all of you to today's thought-provoking Science of Successful Living seminar that's entitled Beyond Belief, the Transformative Power of Knowing. Yes, I'm excited for this day and what this day holds. I ask that as you come on this morning, you just take a couple minutes and position yourself for maximum participation. Maybe closing your door, hanging a sign out, and just being present. While you're here this morning, don't multitask. Don't find yourself listening and playing on your phone. Matter of fact, just put your phone to a side or put it where you can, if you're watching me, you can put it where you can see me. But for the most part, be present. One of the things that I have found that we find ourselves not present to what we are engaging. And if the thing you're engaging in does not warrant your full participation, don't engage in it. I am really encouraging people to be present to what they're doing at every moment of their lives so they can maximize the experience. And you move it from being an external event that you're internalizing it and you get what you should be getting out of that. So I want to say good morning to those of you who are over on the Oasis Spiritual Center. I see you this morning. I see you, Teresa. Good to see you. I pray everything is well with you there in Illinois. Been a long time since we've seen each other. And so welcome this morning. So I don't have a lot of time from the perspective of your time is valuable, so is mine, and your attention is allocated to this moment with me. So I want to maximize that. So I'm going to move right into this morning's teaching. Again, I want to say hello to, I see my mom there. She's in the Zoom room, Carolyn, Michelle, Cheryl, and then those of you who will be joining me at some future date or later on during this broadcast. I welcome you. So why am I in this conversation this morning? I'm in this conversation because I'm part of a faith system, or my evolving in a faith system known as Christianity has been the pathway through which Source has exposed me to it. When I was a child, I asked Source to show me, if you are real in my lifetime, let it be. And I was born into the right family, into the right community, in that I was not forced into any particular religious path. I know I was introduced to Christianity because that's what my mom was accustomed to, and so she introduced me to it by way of the principles we practice in our home, and ultimately taking me to church. I can remember as a kid. Probably I can remember being as young as 3, going to church, getting dressed up, going to church. Not that it was a every week event, but it was significant enough that I remember it. And so ultimately, when I reached a certain age, I began to ask. I was inquisitive. I wanted to know who God was. I just didn't want to take everything that was given to me hook, line, and sinker. So even as a kid, I wanted an experiential engagement with Source. And over the course of my life, my 63 years, and I'll say the last 50 years of this time on the earth, I have had the opportunity to experience Source on so many different levels. So I don't just believe, I know. And that's what this conversation is about today. Moving you from a place of believing, it's okay to believe, to a place of knowing. But if you stay inside of the conversation of I believe, that's a lazy person's position, because in order to know, it takes action. It takes the ability to be willing to question, to let go of, to explore, to go beyond that which you're familiar with. And for the most part, many of our religious systems give it to us and say this is that, and that you needn't look any further, as though it's not evolving. Anything that is truth is always evolving, even though the truth of that may not change, but the experience of that changes. So this morning, I want to challenge you to stay present, to be open to this presentation, again entitled Beyond Belief, the Transformative Power of Knowing. Now, the choice to remain in the illusion of the blue pill, or to wake up through taking the red pill and discover that you are more powerful than you have been led to believe, is yours. If you choose to be satisfied with where you are in life, then that's fine. But this presentation is just part of what my calling is. That is to help individuals learn to master this thing called life, not just based on their belief systems, but a knowingness. So it's the scripture says, the truth you know will set you free. So we're going to look at belief. We're going to look at know, because that's really important. The vast majority of the individuals that you encounter, whatever faith they may be involved in, it is a faith that is solely substantiated on belief. Now, I can't speak to those other faith systems, although I have a level of familiarity with all of them, but I can speak exclusively as an authority to Christianity, not only as a pew participant, but I can speak to Christianity from the perspective of the pulpit, of one who have led congregations, one who have studied to show myself approved as a workman who needn't be ashamed, but rightly dividing the word of truth. So I have a different perspective, a different position, not making me any better than you, but it does qualify me in most cases to say the things that I'm saying this morning based on my experience. So let's look at belief. Again, good morning to all of you who are joining me. When we talk about belief and knowing, they're related concepts, but they have some distinct differences. When you look at Christianity, it is all around belief, even though we oftentimes read scriptures and we have not exegeted them properly, and we will come away thinking we have the right belief, but we don't have the knowing. And so my goal is to help those who choose to continue to walk in Christianities or various formations of Christianity to get to the truth behind that which we have told to believe. First of all, we know that the Bible is not a history book, but it's a source document that has gleaned from many ancient teachings and spiritual systems and culminated into the book that we call the whole Bible or the Holy Bible. So let's look at belief. When we talk about belief, we're really looking at a word. Belief is a mental attitude or acceptance that something is true or exists, even if there isn't concrete evidence to support it. That's belief. Even if there's no concrete evidence to support it. Now, sometimes because of who is sharing this information with you, you may think that they vetted the information, and so you trusting in who's providing that information. And when we look at, for African Americans in particular, we have entrusted certain individuals to share their beliefs with us, and they become our beliefs, our downloads, our truths, but we have never studied them. We have never put the the glass of inspection on it. But we got to do that. Belief can be based on personal experiences, cultural upbringing, faith, or even intuition. Now, you can't argue a person's belief. If somebody say this is what they believe, you need to let them be. But if somebody is asking you, then you need to find out what difference will it make. For me in particular, having access to a lot of information. Sometimes people call me. I have a lot of pastors who I call Nicodemus. I mean, they call me in the evening hours, or they call me on the phone, but they never publicly have conversations with me. But they want to know the information. But then when I tell them, share with them something that is contrary to what they think they know or what they believe, they back and say, well, this is my belief, doc. Well, you call me for clarity. So sometimes people will get the unction to ask you a question about something. They're inquiring because really the Spirit is saying it's time for them to expand. But if they are experiencing any level of cognitive dissonance, that is, cognitively, what you are sharing with them is differently than what they know or what they believe to be true, then there's a conflict. And oftentimes people resolve this conflict by just shrinking back into what they believe. So beliefs are powerful. The word says, be it according to your belief. If you believe in a physical doctor, wholeheartedly believe in it, then you'll get certain outcomes from that. But if you don't believe in the doctor, you most likely won't have the placebo effect or get the outcome. So belief is a powerful thing. The word believe is being thrown around. If you Google believe right now, or if you put it into a search engine, it's probably going to associate with prime time. It's going to associate with Deion Sanders because he has introduced this concept of belief or believing to his team, and he's moving them to something. Ultimately, they're going to move from a believing to a knowing. He keeps saying they're moving up. He said they're about at 80%. I believe that he is purposely moving these young men through the power of belief and using their minds to achieve that which they desire as an outcome. So beliefs are subjective, meaning they're not objective, subjective, and can vary from person to person. That's why you can't argue them. That's a person's reality. They are open to change when confronted with new information, often. But when it comes to things like a person's religious belief system, when they are presented with contradictory information, many times they choose to slink back into the mental attitude of acceptance of what they believe to be true, regardless of the evidence that's being presented to them. Now, the scripture for most of us who are traditionalists, when it comes to Christianity, Hebrews, it says, now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. The conviction of things not seen. That's belief. And so many preachers are peddlers of belief. They want you to believe because they said so. So they go out of their way to present what they believe to be true to you in order that they can convince you that it is true. But it's time for us to start asking, where is the empirical evidence that what you say? So many times when we slip into the pews, just because of the position of the presenter, we take on what he or she is saying as if it's truth. But you better fact check it. I like the fact that we're living in a day and age where things can be fact checked on spot. So when you're looking out, when I'm looking out in the congregation, when I'm doing a presentation somewhere and I see people looking down, I know they're fact checking. So that's why I make it my business to speak from the place of knowing and not from the place of believing. because belief is subject to being found out as being falsities. Knowing is subject to being assured that it's correct. So when we look at the scriptures, and I use the scriptures because this community of individuals who engage me are usually those who have are coming by way of traditional Christianity, and they have expanded in many cases beyond that, and they're searching for truths that transforms, not beliefs that just keeps them where they are, but they're looking for something that gives them a level of mastery. And that's my message. My message is about giving you some tools that you may master this thing called life. And it's because that's really what it's all about, mastering this thing called life. So when you look in the scriptures, you'll find when we talk about faith and belief, it tells us by faith, okay, that Abel made a sacrifice. By faith, Noah built an ark. By faith, Sarah, who was up in age, chuckled, but came forth with a child. And they all did these things by blind obedience. She subjected herself to sexual encounters with her husband, who should have been beyond the age of having, or not necessarily him being beyond the age, but she was beyond the age. But because of obedience, the seed was sown and she had a child. Noah sacrificed. He took the hit for building an ark. When you read the story, people thought he was crazy because it had never rained. They had never seen. He was talking about a flood. Abel, he made a sacrifice. But now, one thing you must know, none of these three people that I've just mentioned ever walked the face of the earth. Noah didn't exist. Sarah never existed. Abraham never existed. Abel never existed. Moses never existed. David never existed. But all of these characters are part of our faith system, and it's not the character or the messenger that we should be looking at, but we look at the message. So when I look at Abraham, I look at the message. When I look at Noah, I'm looking at the message. When I look at Sarah, I'm looking at the message. When I look at Moses, I'm looking at the message. When I look at David, I'm looking at the message. When I look at all the disciples, I'm looking at the message. When I look at Jesus, I'm looking at a message. There was no historical Jesus. Now, ask your preacher to give you some proof. Now, but that's not what this message is about. In a way it is, and in a way it's not. Now, I'm not trying to pull the rug out from anybody that believe in Jesus. Now, because let me get that straight. Jesus did not really want you, according to the scripture, to believe in him, even though somebody may say, if you believe in me. No, it's really if you believe like me. And see, Jesus' belief was not like the masses' belief. The masses had a belief that was not substantiated or predicated on truth, was not predicated on a practice, was not predicated on principles. His belief really was knowing. So you really can say, those who know like me, a greater work shall they do. So we have to understand that when we read the Bible, we are looking at scriptures or words that have been transliterated, taken from one language, taken from one story, and then converted over to the westernized version of that word or that story. And in translating something, you lose the essence of something. So when I'm talking about beliefs, beliefs are powerful. Beliefs can help you and beliefs can hinder you. Most belief is based on blind obedience. Now, let's look at knowing. So belief is a mental attitude or acceptance that something is true or exists. Have you seen Jesus? Have you seen David? Have you seen Joseph? Have you seen Moses? Have you seen any of those? No one has seen them. People have had experiences that they align what they experience with what they believe, the program that they're running. So our lives are filtered through our programs. If you believe in a boogeyman, you will see a boogeyman. You will have a boogeyman experience. If you believe in hell, you will have hell-like experiences. So your belief system is your program, your subconscious, unconscious program that is always running. 95% of your day, the program is running. Only 5% of your day, science tells us, 5% of your day are you conscious, alert to what is going on. Example, when you're driving home, the program is running, because when you get home, you probably can't recount what stoplights you stopped at, which lights caught you. You can't recant who was next to you in the other car. Because you're on autopilot. And many of us are living our lives on autopilot, and it's okay if the autopilot is correct, if it's based on truth. So part of what we do by the being renewed, it says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And it's talking about renewing the program. You want to rewrite the program such that you're no longer a human being, but you are a divine spiritual being. These are not the things that we've been taught inside of our faith systems. We've been taught that we are only humans, but that's a mistruth. It's not truth. So let's look at knowing as we move through this morning. It's good to see you guys over there. I see some of the comments coming through on the YouTube channel. I'm glad you guys could get in over there. And I see, so as I go through, if you have a comment, make sure you write it down, or you could put it in the chat, or you could raise your hand, because there will be a point where I will engage you towards the end of this message. So as we move right through, the second part of what we're looking at this morning, we kind of looked at belief, which we all have beliefs, and we all have the responsibility to examine. The word says, let a man examine themselves. And you want to examine your beliefs. And the mature person is the one who says, this no longer works for me. That's what you do. If you've been praying a certain way and you're not getting the outcomes, as a spiritual practitioner, you should say, this no longer works for me. And you should look to find what will work. So let's look at knowing. Now, there's a distinct difference between belief, believing, and knowing. Now, I'm not telling you to throw belief out, because you're going to see that there's a place for belief. Belief is the catalyst that leads you to a knowing. But most people stop with just believing. They don't do any studying. They don't go through anything in life and get the full lesson, because when they're in the midst of something, they're praying for God to get them out of it. So they're so focused on getting out of it instead of being present to getting through it, and getting through it using the principles that if you work them, they work. I'm a living witness to that. So knowing, on the other hand, implies a higher degree of certainty. Okay, so knowing, I prefer if a person can tell me, well, I believe if you go down there and turn right. You ever stopped in a town and asked for directions, and the person lives in the town and they can't give you directions? Well, I believe if you go down 3 blocks and turn left. Or how about if you run up on that person that says, well, if you go to the next stoplight, you make a right, and as soon as you come to the alley, make a left there, because if you go to the next corner and try to make a left, you're going to run into some problem. The person who is speaking with the knowingness is the one I want to follow. So what we have to learn to do is differentiate and listen for when a person is talking from the place of belief or from a place of knowing. Now, a person who usually talks from the place of knowing is open for engagement and even to be challenged. Whereas when a person is living solely inside of belief, because they know belief is based on hope. Belief is based on there's a probability that I may not be totally right. So when we look at knowing, It implies a higher degree of certainty and usually involves having evidence or strong reasons to support a claim. Knowing is typically associated with facts, truths, or information that can be verified or demonstrated to be true. Now, it's interesting. If you really get into a conversation with a theologian, someone who has gone through a school of divinity and they've matriculated, if you get them in an intimate conversation, they will say to you that a lot of what I preach is based on conjecture, or not conjecture, based on a belief. That is, there's no substantiating evidence. Now, it's interesting. Why is it that we can find the mummies or the bodies of individuals who were died 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, but we cannot find the bodies of those who are supposed to be the disciples, the saints? So something is not adding up. Why can't we substantiate the reality of these people having lived like we can substantiate all of the pharaohs or the Nusuts who came before? So let's look at knowing. It's objective and less subject to personal interpretation and variation. Okay. Example, we know that if you walk off of a building and you don't have a parachute, gravity will take full effect. You don't say, I believe if I walk off that. You don't walk off that building because you know. Okay, so you have a very objective understanding that if I step off this ledge, I will have an encounter with gravity. Knowing is often based on empirical evidence, logical reasoning, and scientific validation. They say that there's a separation between spirituality and science. No, I say science and spirituality, they actually verify one another. If you cannot verify something as true, why are you following it? You're following it based on blind belief. Now, I'll give you an example. David's fight against the lion and the other predators to protect his sheep is often seen as a sign of courage, skill, dedication of him as a shepherd, rather than directly related to his belief or knowing in a religious or spiritual sense. It showcases his commitment to caring for his flock. So when we look at the story of David, we have it given to us from a place of belief, and then when we really extrapolate all the information from inside that story, the message there, we see that it's a science, it's a knowingness. Okay, religion would have you to believe that David's well-known story is a story. David never existed. It's a story. All of this is stories, but it does not discount the message. It does not discount the truth that is hidden therein. So when we look at this story of David defeating Goliath, the giant Philistine warrior, you remember him, is often more closely associated with belief. People will say because of his belief in God, he was able to do this. That's part of the story, part of the truth. In that story, David's faith in God or source did help him, and his trust in God's power to play a significant role in being with him. He declared his trust in God's deliverance when facing Goliath, just like he was delivered from the lions and tigers and bears, oh my. But no, this is when we read it as a fairy tale, we get that message that he trusted in something other than himself. He had a belief that he could do it, but there's more to it. So when David's actions in protecting the sheep from the lions and from other dangers, we may not see it as just a religious belief, but we may begin to see it more as a knowing. His faith in source became more evident in other episodes of his life, particularly when he had the encounter with the giant. In the case of David's actions, we're talking about knowing. He was directly confronting physical threats to his sheep, such as the lions, based on the skills and his knowledge as a shepherd. He had a practical understanding of the dangers that these predators pose and used his physical abilities to protect his sheep, his flock. He knew that if he could use the slingshot, that was his weapon of warfare. This aligns more with the concept of knowing. First, he believed his belief in God was substantiated on his experience in following the principles and practices. So this is what I want you to walk away with this morning. Acting through knowing is the result of a substantiated hypothesis. Now, what is that? A hypothesis is a supposition or a proposed explanation made on the basis of limited evidence. Now, what does the scientist do with the hypothesis? The scientist takes it to the experiment. And so your life is an expression called an experiment. That is, you take those truths that you hold, the things that you believe, and you put them to act. Now, that's where the rubber meets the road. For many individuals who walk inside of Christianity, there is no application. They have no appreciation for the power that is within them, the ability that has been given to them. We find that the average believer, they don't call themselves knowers. The average believer is leaning on the belief that God will deliver them. But the reality is, you find many of them don't get delivered. How many people succumb to COVID? They died in it. How many people have lost their homes praying for them? So we can't just have this thing called belief standing out there by itself, because many people have become shipwrecked because of erroneous beliefs, faulty belief systems, a faulty program. So we got to move from that. Now, there is a place for it. I suggest that knowing is the outcome of belief put into action. Faith without works is dead, and too many people have no work to substantiate their belief. Okay? They got to put it into action and refined. Once you put your belief into action and you refine it, or you perfect it through experience. That's the application. Here's the breakdown of my perspective that I want to share with you this morning. It starts with belief. It starts with having a belief or a conviction in something which could be an idea, a principle, a course of action. Belief often serves as a foundational mental framework, just like when you look at Colorado. They are inside of belief. He's building their beliefs. Okay. And now guess what? He's going to get to the place where they win so many games that now belief has moved from the possibility of I can win to the probability that I will win, because they're operating from a place of knowing. Up until this point, they don't know what they're made of. But he says, believe, I got this. And many times when we first start out, we believe in someone else. We believe that source is no respecter of person. What he's done, what it's done for that person, it'll do for us. So belief is okay, but you can't stay in the land of belief. Belief is just foundational. Now, the second part of this is action. Belief alone is passive. It becomes meaningful when it's translated into action, the work. Now, that's the practice. Practice does not make you perfect, but practice prepares you for the game. Practice prepares you for the situation. It's the situation that perfects you. Belief alone is passive. Taking action based on one's belief demonstrates a commitment to those beliefs. Now, let me take a hard pause right in here. How many of us believe in the blood of Jesus? We go every Sunday for a long time. Every Sunday I showed up I was officiating the service, and that was the the what we call the first Sunday where we have communion, and we sing this song, "Oh, it was the blood of Jesus," and it's implied through those messages that the blood of Jesus inoculates us from sickness and disease. When you're sick, you can call on Jesus. But how many people, when they are sick, now hear what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with taking advantage of medical science. But when do you take advantage of spiritual truths? That you have the ability to heal yourself. But because soon as we find ourselves in that situation, we run to what the world does. But there comes a place where you have to have a practical encounter. How do I know that healing is available to me? Because I experienced it. I had a whiplash and I experienced it. I had a diagnosis that was said that I should not should not have played sports. I should not have been able to get into the military. But because of the power of my belief taken to action, my faith made me whole. And so it's the practical application that you must have an appreciation for. So sometimes when you have the perfect storm, I had the perfect storm in my life. I lost everything. The vast majority of my life, I've been blessed. I have had all the things that I desired. By the time I was 21, I had everything that I envisioned myself having. Wife, children, employment, everything. I had at homes. But then there came a perfect storm. I had a Job experience. Wife, cattle, my stock, and children were gone. My children weren't dead, but as a result of the passing of their mom, there was a breach between us. And so I was out there by myself, but I didn't have a oh me, oh my, why me situation. I just rolled with the punches. It gave me the opportunity to see if what I had been teaching from the pulpit, what I had been practicing in my coaching practice, if these principles work. You know, I always talk about the law of attraction. I talk about the ability to call a thing that is not as though it is. And so I had to now put that stuff to work. And I want to tell you, it works if you work it. I went from losing everything to now gaining back everything and having more than that. And so life isn't about things, but as long as you're in this world, this material world, material matter. Okay? So life is much more comfortable when you have the material things to accompany you on your journey. Now, so you got your belief, you got to take action. Taking action is based on one's beliefs, demonstrates a commitment to those beliefs. So there needs to be some demonstration. So show me something. You know, all these pastors during the time of COVID, I heard very few pastors stand up and say, stand on the word. No, they said, well, the word plus. Where that come from? The word plus. The word plus. Now, if you want to do the word plus, fine. But I believe there is a more magnificent way. What happens when you can't get to the doctor? What happens when you can't get that shot? What happens when you cannot afford that medication? So you need to start now. The word says, despise not the times of small beginnings. So when you have a headache, learn how to deal with that. Learn how to deal with the little foxes that's spoiling your vine. So when we talk about this belief versus not knowing, inside of knowing, there is belief, there is action, and then there's experience and refinement. As you consistently act on your beliefs, you accumulate experience and learn from the outcomes. This process allows you to refine and improve your understanding. And here's the word, execution. The one thing about labeling myself as spiritual scientist is I'm looking for outcome. I'm looking for 1 + 2 always equal 3. I'm looking to get rid of the variations. I'm looking to live life with mastery. And I believe that not only can I do it, not only am I doing it, but you can do it. But you got to be willing to leave the place of familiarity. You got to be willing to examine yourself and say, what I am believing, is getting in the way. And what's even more important, you have to be able to say, what I'm doing is not giving me the outcome. Sometimes people think, if I only go to church more, well, you are the church. If I only study more, it's not about getting in your hand. You have this tool called a smartphone. It makes all of us smart. So having access to information is not the answer either, but application of this information properly. So you got to have belief plus action, and you got to have experience and refinement. And lastly, knowledge. Belief, action, experience, knowledge. Over time, the refined and improved understanding resulting from belief-driven actions become what we commonly refer to as knowledge. Now look at the word knowledge. The word knowledge, some of you see one word, but what I see is two words. I see know, K-N-O-W, and I see ledge, L-E-D-G-E. If you don't know, you fall off the ledge. So knowledge is saying that I have a knowing and I have the ability to apply what I know properly. Because sometimes, so here's what I say to people. To know and not to do is not to know. You just have access to information. But it says the truth you know sets you free. The laws that you know, and how do you know when you're intimate? It says Adam knew Eve. What does that mean? He was intimate with this mythical character. And when you become intimate with the information I'm sharing with you, when you study it out, when you take it to application, when you try it out, then it says the truth you know will set you free. Come on now. If you want to sit around and be peddled things to believe in without any proof, continue to do that. But if you want to live a life of mastery, you need to get with people that can show you the proof. Deion Sanders has mastery. He's able to show them the proof. He's won the game. He's played the game on all levels, and he has been successful. And guess what? Source is no respecter of person. Each one of us has the ability to show mastery, to be the top of the hill in some discipline, in something. We are all called to do something, to be something, and to experience something. So, in this context, when we talk about knowledge, knowledge is often considered deeper, more reliable form of understanding that has been tested and validated through experience. So when you get life's contrast, you take to application the truth you know or the thing you believe. And if what you don't believe don't work, then you work something else. Knowledge is seen as a product of belief, transformed into action and honed through practical experiences. So be open to the experience. It highlights the dynamic relationship between these elements that I've spoken of in shaping our understanding of the world around us. Now, the perspective I have can be a result of the belief put in action, refined through experience, and it not only is refined through experience, it's a valid interpretation of a model that you can apply. Okay, it's important that you know faith without works is dead, or belief without works is dead. Show me your faith, I'll show you my works. That's what it's all about. So I'm encouraging you to move from just being in the land of believing to taking it to experience. When you take it to experience, you move from I believe to I know. Too many people say I believe in God. Very few people say they know God. When you know God, when you have an intimate encounter with source, with divine intelligence, whatever you want to call it, when you truly have a divine encounter, it changes you. You are not the same. It becomes part of who you are 24/7. If you just go to church Sunday or Wednesday or once a month, and some people not even going, then you don't have a true spiritual encounter. You have a religious belief that says that you can create your own belief system. And that's the world we live in today. There's a lot of things out of order because belief, okay? Because people believe that they can do it in an optional way. Well, I'm gonna stick around, and I'm just gonna watch and see how that works for everybody. The next 20, 30 years, I'm gonna see how all the stuff that we are allowing to go down in our society, how's that gonna work out for us? But because I am in this world, but not of this world, I don't really concern myself with it because I stand on what I know. And what I know is this: it works if you work it. That's all I have for you this morning. Okay, so here's what I want to do. Before we move into some questions and answers, we got about 15 more minutes. For those who can stick around for the get down, stay with us. I want to say a couple things. Every Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 6:15, I am out here. We have a spiritual community that we have morning meditation. So I invite you to join me. If you want to know more about that, you can go to the website, oasisspiritualcenter.com. Go over to the tab that says prayer, and all the information is there. If you have been blessed by this and you understand the law of circulation and you want to transmute part of what you have in your possession to this ministry, well, if you go eat breakfast, you're going to tip. Now, I'm not saying you should be tipping Source or tipping me, but I'm saying we give a tip because that we have a timely, what is a tip? Timely inspired performance, put it like that. That means the wait staff. So I waited on you, and I believe I gave you a timely message this morning. And in order to be a blessing to the ministry, here we have a portal, and you can just sow your seed by way of going to the Cash App or the Zelle app, which is 708. If somebody be so kind and type this number in for me, 708-368-1076. 708-368-1076. And you can go there and you can sow your seed. But before you sow your seed, I want you to go into the affirmation that we have with me. So I want you to take your hand, your imaginary seed, that what you're going to circulate, that what you're going to deposit into this ministry. And I want you to say, in my hand, I hold my seed. I sow my seed, not for greed. I sow my seed, not for need, but I sow in alignment with the law of circulation. And as I sow my seed, I release my seed. And I say divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Circulate, circulate, circulate. I appreciate those of you who are participating this morning in the offertory. Now, let me go and answer a few questions this morning. So as I look here, thanks, Cheryl, for putting that number in there, 368-1076. Let's see if it's over here. I'm going to drop that same number over here in the YouTube room for those who are in YouTube. So if you want to sow a seed, so that's 708-368-1076. So I've dropped that over on the YouTube channel for those who want to sow a seed this morning into this ministry. So I want to open up with a few questions. If there's any questions, you could raise your hand and I'll see you in the chat over here. Or if you're on the YouTube channel, you could type in. VJ from around the way says Galatians 4:2. Tell us explicitly that Abraham, Sarah, Hagar are just an allegory. That is right. So there it is. For those of you who believe that is true, that there were not mythical characters, then you need to go to Galatians 4:24. That's a great scripture that you can put into your, not arsenal, that it's like you're going to attack someone, but into your toolbox. When you encounter those people, that takes all of these characters as literal characters. Good. The Christian mythology and personification is a vehicle for beautiful truth. I stand in agreement with you on that, VJ. You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but you got to move from believing this as if it's true to understand that it is a way of transforming truths to us through stories, through allegories, through myths. All right. I like that. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. Hey, Lakeisha, it's good to see you. She said, finally online. Good to see you. Kataya, proper preparation prevents poor performance. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. I like that one also. That's good. Blessings, master teacher. Thank you, play Perry. Blessings. I thank you for that. Top of the morning to all of you over there. Over here. Okay, somebody said Galatians 4:24. Cheryl, put that there. Good to see you, Trinity. And we know that in all things, okay, and we know that in all things, who is we? Those who know. Those who know. It says all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. And the word Lord means you love the law. You understand the principles. You practice the principles. It says all things work together for the good. Some people just say all things always work out good. No, they don't always work out for you. It only works out good for those who understand the law and are called according. So you got to be living life on purpose. You cannot just be a wandering Willie showing up everywhere at every whim of a person. You need to know you have a sole purpose, a sole path, and follow it. I pray that this has been a great use of your time. It has been exceptional use of my time. And we're going to close with what we started with, the song I Am Divine by Ankh-Ra Amenhotep. I want you to take a moment and listen to this song and drop off as you will. Peace. Have a wonderful day.